Hello, everyone. I'm Chloe. I have an interesting ability. I'm going to tell you about it. I can see in the dark. Not as good as night vision, of course, but let's just say better than other people. Because of this feature, my eyes have an unusual color. They are smoky gray. My family has been aware of my gift since I was a child. Do you know how? Well, quite simply, I have a twin sister, Esther. She has brown eyes, just like our parents. It was only because of our different eyes that we were different from each other. My mom and dad dragged me to all kinds of doctors from birth, but no one could explain my peculiarity. When my sister and I were very young, my parents realized that I had an ability. I could pierce the whole house in total darkness without hitting anything. And when Esther and I first started walking, I would help my sister out of her bed at night and we'd run into my parents' room together. But the hardest part for my parents were the walks. Different people would come up to us and take pictures of me. Esther got less attention, which made her resentful and cry all the time. Our parents often punished her for her moodiness and tantrums. All in all, we grew up to be quiet girls. Only my sister was withdrawn and moody, while I was cheerful and sociable. My parents attributed it to my character peculiarities. So, Esther basically grew up in my shadow. Esther, why don't we go for a walk in the park? The weather's so nice today. Do you just want to be around people all the time? I'd rather stay home. You always stay in your room. That's how the young years of your life will pass. My sister snorted and again stared at the book she was holding. Boring, Esther. We're so alike on the outside, yet so different on the inside. When we moved into high school, Esther confided in me that she liked Mike, a boy from the other class. She used to sneak a peek at him but was too shy to approach him. So I decided to help my sister and invite Mike to skate with us. He gladly agreed. I planned to send Esther instead so they could get to know each other better. I told my sister all about my plan, and at first she refused, but her feelings for the boy overpowered her, and she finally gave in. I did her hair, and Esther put on the prettiest dress we found in our closet, and off she went. It was already dark outside, and my sister still hadn't come home. My parents and I got worried, so I volunteered to go look for her, especially since my eyes would help me find Esther quicker in the dark. I found her crying in the park, not far from home. Oh my God, Esther, what happened? Did Mike hurt you? Don't touch me! Don't talk to me! And don't ever look at me with your ugly eyes! She yelled at me and ran home. After that, my relationship with my sister couldn't have gotten any worse. Esther stopped talking to me. Even my parents couldn't get her to. They tried to talk to her to find out what happened between us, but she just kept quiet. At school, I tried to ask Mike about it, but he said they were just having a good time and that was it. I was at a complete loss. I felt terrible that my sister and I were no longer talking. So this went on for several years. Sometimes I thought I'd even forgotten what my sister's voice sounded like. Every day, Esther withdrew more and more into herself. My attempts to talk to her and communicate with her had no effect. Esther stopped leaving her room eventually. She just went to school and came straight home. She even moved away from me into the closet she'd made herself. We were really worried about her. Then one day, I was walking with my friends in the mall and a well-dressed man came up to me. He asked me to join their agency as a model. Naturally, I immediately ran home and started telling my parents about my good fortune. Esther was sitting at the kitchen table and heard everything. She jumped out of her seat and threw the mug she was holding at me. It was a miracle it didn't hurt me, and my mother started yelling at my sister for acting weird and needing help. Esther, honey, have I done something to offend you? I'm sorry. Ugh! Without saying anything else, she went back to her closet. I knew Esther was jealous of me, but I didn't think it was that serious. We looked so much alike. She was as beautiful and slender as I was. The only difference was the color of our eyes. Mom, I'm really worried about Esther. Maybe we should take her to a specialist. I've talked to her about it, but she refuses. Maybe she just wants to be seen as different from you. I don't understand. We were always so close. Maybe it's just puberty. It'll pass soon. Near the prom, my mother, Esther, and I went out to buy us dresses. My sister, as usual, was silent the whole way, while my mom and I discussed what outfit to pick out and where we'd get our hair done. After we chose everything, we decided to go to a cafe to get something to eat. That's where I met Dan, who's my boyfriend. We had just recently started dating and were supposed to go to the prom together. It turned out that he'd also come to buy a suit for the occasion. Oh, Dan, hi! I'd like you to meet my mom and my sister, Esther. Hello, nice to meet you. And you, Esther. I've heard a lot about you. Suddenly, I heard a painfully familiar voice beside me. Chloe, would you mind coming with me to the bathroom? Yes, certainly. I was so shocked, I can't tell you. My mother was just as surprised. She stood there with her mouth hanging open as we made our way to the ladies' room. The bathroom was one floor down, and we started down the stairs. Then suddenly, I felt a push on my back, and that was it. Darkness. I woke up in the hospital. Esther and Mom were standing over me. They told me that I was going down the stairs and that I'd tripped and fallen down 2 flights, but I distinctly remembered someone pushing me. Maybe I'd imagined it. Esther? No, it couldn't be. But she had that guilty look in her eyes. The doctor said that I was lucky and had no serious injuries. I was discharged from the hospital 2 days later. All this time, my sister came to the hospital, brought me goodies, and went for walks with me. I can't say that she was the same as before, but I could see the progress. She started talking to me, sometimes even joking around. I was so glad that our lives were back on track. Graduation was just a week away. The mood was upbeat, the homemade gatherings were keeping me busy. Getting ready for prom for 2 girls? My parents were just exhausted. Esther, who are you going to prom with? No one. I'm going by myself. Just come with Dan and I. Imagine how jealous he'll be, next to 2 hotties. I don't mind. No one invited me anyway. Don't worry about it. You're a beauty. And the boys, seeing you in that dress, will be shocked. My sister agreed. I told Dan that he had the honor of escorting 2 beautiful girls to the prom, even twins. We laughed, but my boyfriend supported the idea. Prom day arrived. Dan picked us up in a huge limo with 2 bouquets of roses. We arrived at the school a little early, and Dan went to get us drinks. Esther stayed waiting in the limo, and I decided to see which of my friends had already arrived. I started walking to the door when Mike stood in my way. He was already pretty drunk. Oh, Chloe, you look beautiful. Are you waiting here for me? What do you want, Mike? I'm here with my boyfriend. Yeah, where's your boyfriend? Or are you doing it again? What again? Mike, are you hitting on my girlfriend? Get out of here. Scared, Mike headed back into school, muttering something under his breath. We went back to the limo to take Esther with us, but she wasn't in the car anymore. I figured she hadn't waited for us and had already gone inside, so we headed back to the entrance. There were a lot of graduates already gathered in the hall. I started looking for Esther everywhere, but I couldn't see her. Dan suggested that maybe she'd gone to the bathroom and told me not to worry. He'd find her. The party was in full swing when the lights went out all over the room. Everyone got scared and panic broke out. I tried to see what was going on when I saw a familiar figure near the door. Esther. I tried to call out to her, but then there was a sharp pop and the hall filled with smoke. People began to shout and try to get out, but in the darkness, they couldn't find the doors. With a steady step, I made it to the exit, but it turned out that we were locked in. What was going on anyway? I started calling out for Esther and Dan, but there was such a buzz that I couldn't hear anything. My vision in the dark helped me find an emergency exit, and I opened the door and Mike came crashing down on me. What were you doing in there? The lights are out and there's a fire! What fire? Mike's gaze was directed to the hall, which was already full of smoke. He started yelling for everyone to follow him. We miraculously made it outside. The fire department came and started putting out the fire. I was standing in front of the school building and couldn't come to my senses. Then Dan saw me in the crowd and ran up to me. I found Esther. She was over there by the lawn. Said she wanted some air. My sister came up to us. Esther, tell me it's not true. Tell me I imagined it. Did I? Of course. Or don't you trust your beautiful eyes anymore? Oh my God! What have you done? Why did you do that? Why were you talking to Mike? Or is Dan not enough for you? Esther, what is she talking about? Fool! While you were getting us drinks, she was cooing over Mike. It's not like that. That jerk is drunk, and he's all over anyone he can get his hands on. I sighed with my own 2 eyes, even though they're not as pretty as yours, sis. Esther, were you going to kill me and 100 other people? I saw so much pain and hurt in my sister's eyes. What was going to happen? Esther needed help. I started to talk her into going home, telling her that Dan and I would keep quiet about what she'd done, but then Mike came up to us. Oh, hi. And little sister Esther's here. How are you doing? Mike, you better get out of here. Why? I'm their best friend. Aren't I, girls? Okay, Mike, fuck off. What, now you don't want to hang with me? I knew it was a setup. You tricked me, Chloe. It turns out that when I asked him to go rollerblading, he thought I liked him. At the time, he wanted to ask me out, and he thought my offer was a good opportunity. But Esther went instead. He got so mad that he said she was a far cry from me, and the color of her eyes reminded him of cowpats, as opposed to my mysterious and smoky ones. That time, Esther never told him she liked him. She ran away and cried for hours on end. Then she realized she just hated me, and if it hadn't been for my stupid idea, she wouldn't have become a laughingstock in Mike's eyes. And when she realized that I was dating Dan, she decided to cripple me so that I'd be alone too. And the attempt to burn down the school came to her when she saw Mike next to me. I had to tell my parents everything. Naturally, they were horrified. They hired a specialist for Esther and put her in a clinic. I still felt guilty and couldn't sleep well. My frequent visits, working with a therapist, and treatment helped Esther. In those moments when I visited her, I felt my sister starting to come back to me little by little. The doctors say a couple more months and we can take her home. Tell me guys, did you like my story? Write your opinion about it in the comments below the video. Don't forget to like it, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to the channel.